I'm the General Manager of Linen Service Australia in Dandenong. We are a facility that runs 5.5 days per week. We have approximately 240 staff employed on site and off site. We wash approximately 500 tonnes of soil linen every week. Our customers range from large public hospitals, private hospitals, other healthcare facilities, aged care facilities, medical centres, and we've also started moving into the hotel and accommodation sector. We do have ISO 9001 accreditation, which means that we do have very high, safe, hygienic standards that have to be employed across all facets of our business, both the washing and the selling of clean linen or rental linen to our customers. By doing that, the Dandenong facility has 4 continuous batch washers. They are basically massive corkscrew washing machines. We have industrial dryers, and we also have automated conveyor systems and high capacity, high speed ironing and folding machines. The healthcare sector requires strict linen hygiene practices. So we do have controlled washing temperatures for thermal disinfection. We have chemical dosing for the chemical disinfection. We also have Class A water treatment and quality monitoring processes that look at our linen and how it comes out after it's been washed to ensure that our customers are receiving a hygienically clean product. The energy and sustainability for us is very important. We are owned by Macquarie Asset Management Group, and one of their key targets is to reduce energy and increase sustainability across all of their businesses. So we are happy to be a part of the energy efficiency studies, optimising steam and heat usage, evaluating new technologies such as electric boilers as a way of reducing the energy consumption and improving our sustainability. Linen Service Australia continues to focus on safe and hygienic linen processes, operational efficiency, energy optimisation, and sustainable solutions for the future. Thank you, Laura. Thanks, Kris.
Thanks very much, Mark. And thank you, everyone else, for being here today. So, yes, so we were engaged by Linen Service Australia to complete a feasibility study on thermal energy storage. And that was funded through, as Laura mentioned, the Industry Renewable Heat Accelerator, which has funded a number of studies across decarbonising industrial heat. And so, yeah, very happy to, very thankful for the accelerator for providing us with this funding. I guess one of the key things that maybe we should talk about just quickly is why are we doing this? The key reason that Linen Services Australia is interested in this from one perspective is de-risking their industrial heat or the cost of their industrial heat. As we're all aware, I think we're all aware, price of natural gas has been increasing over time. And, we experienced a large price shock during the Ukraine war, and we may be looking at another price shock coming with the current conflict in Iran. And there is a lot of talk in the media around the price of electricity increasing, but the rate at which the price of electricity is increasing is nowhere near the same as natural gas. And the key thing to point out that we've seen is that the midday price of electricity has been continuing to fall. So that is what's driving this. So what can we do to help industrial heat users like Linen Services Australia to access that low-cost midday electricity? In addition to the price of electricity, the spot market for electricity decreasing in the middle of the day, network companies are also identifying that they need to try and motivate customers to move to midday electricity consumption away from peak electricity. Linen Services Australia is located in Dandenong, just south of Melbourne, in the United Energy Network. And the United Energy Network is now offering a published tariff, which is really, really supportive of these types of projects. So going from their standard tariff, which is around 7 cents per kilowatt hour, to a new tariff, which is where the cost of electricity or the network charges are around 0.7 to 0.9 of a cent per kilowatt hour, as long as you avoid that peak electricity, peak demand time of 4 to 9 p.m. at night. So again, all of the things are starting to align that if we can use electricity during the middle of the day, this can offer significant cost benefits and also provide additional stability to the grid in the middle of the day, where we start seeing grids start experiencing things such like minimum system load. So the first thing that we did with this project was we wanted to map out what all the energy use is on site. So we completed an end-use breakdown of the natural gas on site, both in terms of the amount of energy used by each of the different processes and also when it's used on site. So the key thing to note here is that Linen Services Australia Dandenong facility significantly uses a significant amount of natural gas directly in their dryers, and then steam is predominantly, natural gas is also used in boilers to produce steam, but that's predominantly only used in the washing processes. And that is a limiting factor for this because it means that we can't electrify a lot of those dryers before they are converted to steam dryers. So there are direct natural gas dryers, there are direct steam dryers, or there are steam dryers. Both have very similar efficiencies. So for the Dandenong site, it is definitely a drawback not using steam dryers on site. But other facilities definitely do use steam dryers. The other thing to point out is that the facility predominantly operates during the daytime. So it operates from 6 a.m. in the morning through to 10 p.m. at night is the bulk of their energy consumption. And that is 6 days or 5 days a week plus a half day on a Saturday. And in terms of electrical capacity, the site was found to have significant available electrical capacity. So it's got 3 MVA of electrical connection, and they're only using around 1 MVA, and that's only generally used during that 6 a.m. to 10 p.m. period. And that'll be of interest when I talk about electric boilers near the end as well. So the first thing was we looked at electric thermal energy storage, or eTES. And we looked at a range of different technologies, but we looked at the 3 main Australian manufacturers, so Graphite Energy, 1414, and MGA Thermal. They're all based on very similar technology where we're heating a solid medium up with electricity at low voltage, so 415 volts was all of the designs that we looked at, and producing steam for the site at 12 bar. So very much within the temperature range of these units. And the plan is to keep the existing natural gas boilers running in parallel. In terms of footprint for the site, the eTES units do take up a significant amount of footprint compared to a standard natural gas boiler. So if you look on the diagram here, the traditional boiler house is located down here, and that has 2 natural gas boilers located inside of it. If we're going to install an eTES unit, it would need to be installed either out here in this footprint of 11 by 20 meters, or even over the back here in the 17 by 32 meter slot. As you can see, they are a fairly significant unit. So this is an example of a Rondo unit that was installed in Thailand, and that is a 20-foot shipping container at the end of the unit. So yeah, it is a significant footprint, and so having space on site is important. It is probably worth noting that these Rondo units can go vertically a lot higher, so you may not require much more footprint than this to do 100 megawatt storage, or maybe even 150 megawatt storage, but it is a lot larger than what we're normally used to in terms of steam boilers or natural gas steam boilers. So we completed some very detailed analysis of the AEMO spot rate, the environmental charges and the regulator charges. And what we found is that the average electricity price came out to around 1 cent per kilowatt hour, which is really competitive. And the key thing to note here is that most of that actually comes from environmental charges and largely from VEECs. So when you actually if you're in states that don't have those type of state certificates, then this number may be lower. But the key thing is that Victoria does have a very low spot rate, so it does tend to balance out. And when you compare that to the spot or to the price of natural gas, which we found to range between 5 and 15 cents per kilowatt hour, you can see that we are we can be well below the price of, the combined price of electricity can be well below the price of natural gas. And if we saw that natural gas price increase, we could be potentially below the natural gas price 50% of every day, or 50% of days, hours throughout the year. And then that spot price on a half-hourly basis then followed through to us modelling out when the eTES unit would be operating, times of the day. And so what we can see here is in the green, we're modelling out the steam demand and whether it's coming from the thermal energy storage or whether it's coming from the natural gas boiler. Now, what I would say is that for most of the year, this graph is all green. So for January, February, March, especially all green because there's lots of excess solar. But when you look at July, August, you see that most of this graph would actually be purple on previous data. I've just picked 1 month that shows both, 1 week that shows both of those units operating. So what we found was the energy saving for the steam boilers was 76%, but that only offset 31% of the site's natural gas because a lot of natural gas is going directly to those steam boilers. And then on the right, we've also got the charge within the TES unit throughout a weekly profile where we're doing a bulk of that charging over the weekend. The last thing on the thermal energy storage to talk about is the payback period. So where the rubber meets the road, where everyone's really interested, is how much does it cost and what's the payback? So if we are looking at for the unit for the site, we roughly estimated around $12 million all in, everything installed on the current market price, including electrical upgrades, everything like that. And that results in a payback period a lot longer than most companies are willing to accept. 18 to 20 years is kind of where we are without any government funding. If you looked at the perspective where you say, for example, we got 50% co-funding from ARENA, you're down closer to that 10-year mark. And then if we are able to get efficiencies of scale, or the price of natural gas increases, then all of a sudden we're getting closer to that 5-year period, 5 to 7 year period. So it just really depends on what your outlook for the market is. These economics significantly change if you're also on LPG as well, where the price of LPG is much higher. So overall, based on looking at this, we found there's a number of different factors that contribute to whether eTES is suitable for different sites. So this is a little bit of a cheat sheet for people to quickly run through to understand whether they think it's suitable for their sites. So how much steam are you using? How consistent is it? It's not well suited to the industries where you're only operating, say, for example, a milk processing facility where you're only operating 8 months of the year or 6 months of the year. You really want the plant to be running very consistent. High price of natural gas always helps. Low price of electricity, favorable network tariffs, and then that's obviously weighed up against environmental charges depending on what state you're in. And then, the site fit. So have you got the space to actually take the eTES unit, and have you got the availability to take the for the electrical capacity? And then last of all is ARENA funding, or state funding, even in New South Wales now. My last slide is just talking about one other option that we looked at for the site. So we also looked at an e-boiler. And the reason we looked at an electric boiler for this site is because the site's predominantly operating during the day. So we thought, as Kris Nelson mentioned in his original slide, electric boilers do come with a much lower capex cost. So can we offset a large amount of the natural gas at a fraction of the capital? And the answer is yes, because they're operating predominantly during the day. And so what we found is that by installing an e-boiler, we could offset 45% of the natural gas, 16% of the total site's 16% of the site's total natural gas, and we can do that for a fraction of the cost. And so I'll show you and that's what it would look like in terms of that operating profile as well, and when it's operating during the week. And the key thing here is that the actual estimated cost of the electric boiler installed was somewhere around this $1 million mark, because the site already has sufficient electrical capacity to take the boiler. They've already got the footprint inside the boiler room for taking it very close to the steam manifold. So the cost of install becomes quite low. And so, the payback can be somewhere around this 2.5 through to 4 year period, which is well within most companies' expected payback period. And if we can even drive that down even further to $750,000 for the installation, we can get under 2 years. So that may be an option if we're not looking for complete decarbonisation. This may be an option to get them started on this journey while they go through the process of replacing dryers with steam dryers over time, and it might be a good interim step.